Hey everybody, how you doing? Thanks for tuning in again. It's good to be back. AEZ All Elite Zone. We've got our Canadian podcast here on YouTube every Tuesday night, episode 44. And again, I have my partner in crime. It just looks like it could be the two of us again. Adam, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing good. Yeah, no, very excited to talk about tonight and yeah, about the topic. 1 year anniversary of Collision. Crazy it's been out for a year.
That is crazy. Yeah, it's crazy. It just shows how quickly it passes. I've watched I think most of Collision, but yeah, we'll definitely talk. We'll touch on that tonight. I thought we can touch on I see the trios division starting to heat up, right? Some good factions are going against each other, which is about time. We've been talking about a long time. With the continued. The BCC, they're back together. They've been wrestling more. And I just want to touch on kind of a comment, I'm reading online a little bit where people are feeling that Claudio is getting overlooked and he's overshadowed. And, he was doing better when he was in WWE versus now and he's away. So just want to touch on that. And, I just thought about kind of obviously talk about Osprey as he's coming up to the Forbidden Door, as he's going to be facing Swerve Strickland for the AEW World Championship, and like the matches again, another stellar match he had. So and also some nice little promo there with Swerve at the end. So nice build up going on, and I thought also too it might be worthwhile to touch on. There's as wrestling fans always love to debate everything, and especially hardcore in WWE versus AEW. And I thought the matches that say Will Ospreay's had some great matches in AEW so far with some top talent. Some of the best wrestlers in the world. So would he have the same run if he was in WWE? Is there enough caliber guy over there that he could have the same run and then same just pure hardcore, not hardcore, but professional wrestling match, right? So just want to touch on. So those are some of the things that I wanted to touch on for tonight, Adam. And again, like you mentioned there off the top, kind of a special week for AEW fans was the 1 year of Collision, and happens to be a Father's Day edition. So, which I tuned in. Hey, nice to see you. Thanks for tuning in.
Nice to
Um,
meet you.
there has been some great matches, and there's some little clips that they put together that kind of show some of the big matches that they've had in the past year, which you kind of forget how many good matches there has been on Collision, and but being with the Father's Day edition. The one thing I definitely wanted to bring up and talk about was the man who is celebrating the biggest holiday of the entire year. Christian Cage was out to receive his family there and some gifts from the rest of the patriarchy for this Father's Day edition. And I'll turn it over to you. Some of his comments and some of the build-up. How'd you like his little in-ring performance there with his family?
I love it. It's almost like father who has his favorites between Killswitch and Nick Wayne. The tension there is great. I mean, the crowd is getting behind Killswitch slash like Luchasaurus, kind of turn on the family because again, it's almost like you have the one son that you're very proud of, and then the other one you're disappointed in. And Christian just plays that line very well. And honestly, I loved it. I loved everything about the segment. I think what I'm loving more about Christian more and more is that he just keeps getting better and better on the mic, even though he has almost the same shtick of father, this father, I'm your father.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just love it. It's almost to a point where he can say, Tony Khan, I'm your father. like,
I love that.
and so it's really great. I love his character work. I honestly hope, again, like, before he leaves, I really do hope we get like a Father Christian and a Father Edge team again one more time. And yeah, no, I thoroughly enjoy anything when Christian gets on the mic and his chemistry with both Nick Wayne and Luchasaurus in the ring, fantastic. And even having Mama Wayne in there, it's great. I love the whole dynamic of the whole group.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And we were a little, hey, what's going on? Thanks for tuning in. I know one of the things we did bring up months ago, and especially with us, it's a title. I remember, you know, did they build too much around the fact that he was the team champion for the gimmick and the family? Did they lose a little bit of luster after he lose the title? Where's he go from here? But no, they did take a couple of weeks break, which is great because they regroup. And perfect. Boom. They did a great job of throwing him in against Swerve. That kind of elevated the group again. And you're totally right. I love this character. I was never a Christmas fan when I was younger, um, but really, really, really digging this character. Definitely my favorite character. Like I said, he's really getting into it, staying with it, and I love how they haven't blown this stuff yet. Again, it's a really good character do this up probably 3 months ago, right? But the people on, even the fans is even behind the fact that, like I said, and then he's got his name is Kill Switch, right? And he's just so good at getting, reaction. Even Mama Wayne, I think she's perfect. Roll in there, Nick Wayne, I really like the group, and I like how they're kind of putting themselves into the trios division and lineup for, to get into that, which is great. We kind of talked about that before, so and I'm loving it. Right. So, but anyways, it was it was really, he had what Nick Wayne gave him this crumpled up like homemade card, Father's Day card, and he was like, "Oh, it's amazing. This is great. I'm gonna cherish this. This is the best." And then Luchasaurus had done this great, full picture painting portrait of Christian, which is great. And of course, he just said, "It's okay." But he's really going to cherish the homemade card that Nick made. So it's great that we keep on these little things, and you start really you see him, Luchasaurus, he's hanging his head, and people starting to chant. So I'm excited. They're really building this up, so when he does it, it's going to be epic, which is great. And I'm really glad that AEW has done this and kept the story going and on booking instead of ruining this. And they could have. Right? They could have blown this all up. Around the time that Christian lost the title, that it could have been all that could happen. The blow could have happened in that match, and we started to scratch. So I'm glad they're doing it. But how do you feel about how they've kept this whole story going this long?
Well, I kind of heard some of what you're saying because you sound like you're drowning right now.
Oh, really?
Your audio, yeah, and I even sent you a private message because I didn't want to stay here because you were on a roll. But you sounded a little drowning. But I kind of caught what you were saying about everything. So if you want to check your audio while I respond, it's fine. I love the whole idea of the Father Days card and the idea of him putting them in a trios kind of group with him, Killswitch, and Nick Wayne. Just kind of like, okay, I'm going to window out which one's the good kid and which one's the bad kid. It's almost like we're going to have a contest in the trios. You guys are going to work with me. We're going to figure out a way that we can all work together, but do not disappoint me. So I actually do enjoy the idea of putting them in the trios mix, as well as just maybe even having them win the trios titles, which would be really cool just to have those three have title. Then you have the whole patriarchy have trios titles, kind of like how we had House of Black had the whole trios titles. So I do like the idea of them getting involved in the trios division.
Yeah, it's is this any better? Okay, cool. I'll just I'll stay a little closer. Maybe it's just me waving a ring and move my head too much. It's kind of my problem there. No, that's great. So no, I'm excited. And while we're kind of talking about trios, and they're purposely kind of heating up as well, and actually a really good response for House of Black. I mean, the fans, like now they're like, especially when they're up against the Bang Bang Gang, people love House of Black. And I think fans want to make sure that House of Black knows that they're wanted and they're appreciated, because there's always this talk, when's the contract up? Is Malachi going to leave? Is he underused? Is he not appreciated enough? So I kind of feel that gets into the psyche of the fans, and they root extra for them. Right. And I love it, and because they should, they're a great team. So again, and now you can see, with a bit of a heel kind of move, having Buddy Matthews there injured. right? And this kind of sets it up. And I loved seeing Pac come out because I was like, I think he'd to me. I mean, I know he's part of Death Triangle, which would be great to see. I love the fact that he stays with Death Triangle, and there's another trios group again to like to have them going. But I would love if Death Triangle didn't work out. Um, I think I think Pac could be a good member of House of Black. I don't know. Did you
Yeah,
ever see
no,
the video?
no. I mean, the story he had with Malachi in the beginning with him, the story between Death Triangle and House of Black started about like when he spewed in his eye and he was blind. He came back with the blindfold, but then he took it off. He could see again. Like there's that story there. So I always thought, and I think a lot of us had agreed, Connor had agreed on it, that I think Pac would be a great addition to House of Black. He almost fits into that group. And now with the whole story of with Buddy Matthews being out, with that attack from patriarchy, this would be a good time to see him inserted into House of Black, but also see him as like balancing between House of Black and Death Triangle, where he's got these two groups and he's working with both. It's like, is it okay to work with this group? Is it okay with this work group? I know we have history, but can we work together? Something along those lines. Or, is Pat going to be the de facto, kind of the in between of who do I choose?
Mhm.
And do we see a Pac where he's like, I'm going to side with House of Black because, they got something going, and we have that history. So I'd like to see what House of Black with Pac would look like moving forward in trios competition.
Yeah, that'd be really cool. I mean, I think you are too. Like, I'm a big factions guy. I love factions. I love 2 and 3, 4 member teams, 5 member teams. I always have. As long as it's done well, then I love it because for me, it always adds a bunch of storylines and layers. And, you can still have feuds between the teams when you have individuals just because there's so many members. So, um, I guess talking about new faction, I know we could just flip over to for a second here to to WWE and just have to respect the background you have going there, and maybe we'll flip back, but I definitely think it's worth mentioning while we're talking about factions and groups. In terms of playing the long booking, the long storytelling, I think you got to hand it to WWE for what they've done for the group. What is it?
The Wyatt Six.
The Wyatt Six, and I love how it's like SICKS, like
Mm-hmm.
six, like sickos. So it's really cool, and I love because again, huge Bray Wyatt fan. Really didn't think that he got an opportunity to finish the story, and I think there's going to be so much more there. So I'm glad they're not killing it and saying, "Oh, it's disrespectful." They're actually carrying it on and letting his brother continue the story and still make it make sense, which is great. And I thought they did a great a great job of the storytelling last night. But I'll just put it over to you. I know you obviously were impressed by your
Yeah,
background.
yeah. I'm big on factions. I love groups, whether it was the NWO, DX, the Elite. I mean, you could consider them a faction. BCC, Blackpool Combat Club. I love factions, and Wyatt family when they came out in WWE, I thought it was the coolest thing I've ever seen. Just the first rendition with Bray and I think it was Bray, Brody, and Eric were the original three in that group, and I loved it just because I understood the character of Bray Wyatt and the Wyatt family because I knew he was a combination of two people, which was uh, I keep forgetting. Last name is Katie from Cape Fear,
Mm-hmm,
based on the
mm-hmm.
Robert De Niro character
Yep.
from Cape Fear,
Yeah.
and a wrestler that used to wear the Hawaiian shirts.
Yeah. It was
Mercy, something Mercy,
Danny Spivey, who in Waylon Mercy.
Waylon Mercy.
Mercy. Yeah.
So I understood the character, and so it was really cool. And when he passed, I mean, we had an emotional show about it. On Talking Elite about honoring Bray when he passed. The week that he passed, we kind of honored him. And the fact that his brother was involved with him, like through and through with that Uncle Howdy, we thought,
Mm-hmm.
where do they go with it? And after watching Becoming Immortal on Peacock, the documentary about Bray, and seeing that he had plans laid out of what he wanted to do, like within like yearly. And that's the nice thing about WWE and maybe even AEW or any promotion that does it, the yearly storylines, you know? I mean, we had a year storyline with CM Punk and MJF and AEW. You know, we had a year or 2 year storyline with Cody Rhodes and the Bloodline. So that's the nice thing about professional wrestling is the whole idea of storytelling. And no one was good at storytelling than Bray Wyatt. And he had this all laid out when I was watching that documentary, and even Bo, his brother Taylor, was talking about it. He goes, he had all these ideas. He had this new Fiend character he wanted to do. And the fact that he can get this group together and that WWE, especially someone like Paul Levesque, can just be like, this is what we got to do. This is our honor to him, but I like the idea. And it's horror-esque. And you don't see that a lot. You don't see a lot of horror-esque theme. Like, if you watch their debut last night, they were very emphasized on blood and violence. And I'm like, this is not the PG WWE that they were. They have done away with the PG era for good. And so watching the debut, as it was happening, every new person that came on screen, I can identify that wrestler. You know, Abigail, an incarnation of Abigail was Nikki Cross. And then they cut to the back and the security guards are laid out. The guy with the mallet, you could tell from the red beard, Eric Rowan, who we've had on this show before, interviewed before. And he's a great guy to talk to. Anybody watching, if you haven't seen that interview on our channel, please go watch it. He tells great stories. And I love the mallet he had. It said "help." It was kind of like an ode to like the Bludgeon Brothers that he did with Brody. And so then you cut to the production and the production, like the production area. Oh my God. And Gorilla Press and everything's laid out. You can see Triple H laying out like he's involved in it. And even the GM.
What's his name? He's bloody. He was like the shoosh.
Yeah, well, I'm getting to that. But the guy sitting there, I was like, that's Dexter Loomis. I can tell from the arm tattoo and the gloves. And then they go through the curtain with the pig mask. I was like, that's Joe Gacy. I can tell by the arm tattoo.
Who is that?
Joe Gacy was actually NXT. He was on NXT. He was part of a group called Schism.
Okay.
He was like the leader. He was like psychologically damaged. So he's wearing the pig gas match. And then they cut to said Chad Gable with the bloody head. I'm like, oh. And then I love the aesthetic of the new Uncle Howdy because he's kind of got the Bray Wyatt dreads, the look of it, like Bray walking as Uncle Howdy, kind of embodying Uncle Howdy. And like I said, you look at the picture behind me, the picture of them actually on the stage. And I'm going to see if I can pull that up as my background here. But them, when they posed on the stage, let me see if I can pull this up.
The fans were definitely into it.
Oh yeah. So this is the last thing you saw as the show was going off the air, you know, with all of them up there on stage and him holding the lantern. And people are saying, well, it's supposed to be 6. So where's the 6? And the theory goes, Bray's the 6th, and his soul is in that lantern. That's the 6th.
I thought the 6th was the return of Alexa Bliss back.
But that can be also too. But she's just getting over the giving birth and everything, so it's going to take a while for her to do all that. So she could be the 6th person, but for right now, I think the good storytelling for it is the lantern is basically Bray's spirit following the group and guiding them. So that's kind of your Wyatt 6. But as far as a debut or reintroduction of a character like an Uncle Howdy or just the Wyatt 6, I will say WWE knocked it out of the park with it. And literally, before I went to bed last night, I rewatched it again and again and again. And I was watching people's live reaction to it. I'm like, this is what professional wrestling is storytelling and introducing great characters and making you feel. So I was very excited when this group finally debuted.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's needed, and I think, like I said, from what you're seeing, the reaction of the crowd, people are really excited for this to happen, and really excited to see where this is going. I would love to see. I mean, it'd be really cool. I mean, I don't know if it's a bit morbid, but even if they had used Bray's like voice as little clips every once in a while, like throw it. I don't know if that's too morbid, but just if you're going to go and embody it in the group, like I love to like if you heard like the "Let Me In," like you know what I mean. Like
Mm-hmm.
I love that if they were able to incorporate some of that.
Well, if you notice,
really,
they were coming out to Bray's old song with the dong. I keep forgetting the name of it, but it was like the little chime as they're
oh
walking.
yeah,
It was Bray's. Bray used to walk to that sound, so that was kind of like almost
before the song, before the fireflies, like
yeah,
oh
like the
okay.
dong. Like if you rewatch it and you listen to it, you're like the little ding, like every time the music's playing. That was Bray's. Like Bray would walk out to the ding before it got remixed into another intro song. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. I'm excited. Someone did bring up that we really need, like, if say Alexa Bliss, when she finally joins on, and then you can actually have her and Nikki Cross actually go as a tag team and actually do stuff because they were partners, and then they're also now these characters together and go after the women's tag titles, right? And so I think that'd be really cool to see. I just hope um, they don't ruin it. You know what I mean? Like as long just keep it to that Bray Wyatt feel. If they can keep that, I think it can have some longevity. I just don't want them to do something where you just get tired of it now. You know what I mean? I don't want to get tired of it. I hope they work it so it's not oversaturating where you're like, okay, kill me now. But I mean, they set it up that which faction do they go after first? Right now, there's some groups. I mean, you could put them against the Bloodline. You could put them against Judgment Day. You've got with the Spanish faction. They've got so
LWO, yeah.
yeah, right. So I think there's some good potential storylines right off the bat that
I
with that
think I think the plan is they're going to start integrating this group into every aspect of WWE TV, just based on how they debuted last night, destroying everything production wise. So it's like I think the plan is for them to be integrated in every aspect, whether it's Raw, NXT, SmackDown. They're going to be integrated somehow in all three programs, I think.
group. Yeah, because again, if this is a kind of a lead up to them kind of get like a bit of a takeover, right? Like the lights flashing, people hurt. It's all the bringing in the giants, the smokiness and everything. They're in control, like electricity and everything, right? So there is a bit of that control, spiritual type of element they're bringing in.
And I did read somewhere someone made a funny comment saying about this group. They're like, this is what Retribution should have been. Like how Retribution debuted during the COVID era. They're like, this is what Retribution should have been, is this kind of group.
True. Retribution was terrible.
It was horrible.
Absolutely. With all this, I mean, we were talking about, with factions, and if you take it back over to AEW, and I think I think where it's needed for a faction, and to kind of maybe kick things off again, is if they can somehow put a good female faction together, like a real good one. They've always had like these riots, squad, like these little small factions. I mean, the probably the best faction, but it had was Britt Baker, and when she had
Ruby. No, not Ruby.
No.
Reba.
Reba, and
Jamie Hayter.
yeah, I like that. That was a good little faction they had going. But I think you could put together, they're missing, if you could put together a good faction with a good storyline, even you could put together some women that maybe have been kind of sitting on the back burners. It's a good time to bring them back. I mean, it always seems to be a good idea if you've got a few people that are just kind of sitting around like, hey, what if we can figure out something and put together a faction that makes sense? I think this would be a good time for the women's division to do that. Have like a dominant faction. I mean, the only thing you're seeing right now is Tony Storm with Mariah May, right? And then that little kind of group, but it's but you need something. I don't know. What do you think? How do you feel? Do you think that would
So,
be a good fit or a
so
good?
one thing is they really, and this is the thing about AEW, they really dropped the ball on the Outcast group. They really did.
Mhm.
I mean, you still got Soraya with Harley Cameron. I mean, you can get them paired up. I mean, I've always been saying you need to turn maybe Mercedes Monet heel and have Soraya and Harley Cameron team with her, and they can still be Outcast, but not be called the Outcast, but kind of be like these WWE people that came over and pretty much took whatever they wanted in the group. And then you could have someone come back like a Britt Baker and a Jamie Hayter come in, and maybe a Sheeta join their group. You know, I'd love to see those three women take on those three women. And heck, you can even throw in a Thunder Rosa with that group and then a Deonna Purrazzo with Mercedes group. And you can have the first ever women's blood and guts match. You know, like I think you talk about revolutionize of women's wrestling. I mean, we've already had street fights with the women in tag teams. You know, we've already had a lights out match, a steel cage match with them in AEW. I mean, a blood and guts match, an anarchy in an arena with the females. Like the possibilities are endless if you can get these good groups of women together, especially like a good faction, like you said, like a Britt Baker, Jamie Hayter, Rebel. I don't know how much Rebel would wrestle because again, I never saw her wrestle a lot when she was with Britt. She
Yeah,
was kind of like the mouth and the
like the
distraction.
mascot, kind of like
Yeah.
the mascot of the group,
So
right?
she used to wrestle. I don't know
Yeah.
how much in ring she does anymore,
I
but
don't think
I'd,
I would say probably minimal.
yeah, and I would say, I mean, that would be great. But like I said, they need to do something. I mean, again, you've got one on the back burner because now Ruby, is away on maternity leave with having a baby with Angelo, and so you got to start utilizing the women you have on your roster, and if it's getting to them group just to get them on TV and have a storyline built around it, I think that's the right direction they could go. I do enjoy a couple of good female tag matches when it's a good chemistry between all four women.
Mm.
So I'm kind of torn on the idea of a female group because again they dropped the ball with the Outcast, and so I'm like, how do you fix that if you drop the ball on that group? How are you supposed to build up another all females group? So
Yeah, no, I no good points, and I think it's strong, and I really like to see, and especially kind of I feel like the way they're introducing some of these wrestlers, I really think they're set up to could do a really strong Spanish like Mexican that mix of lucha, that is especially these women that are coming over. Kind of coming in over from New Japan, even from CMML, you're seeing these other women that are introduced that are hardcore, like badasses. And I think, if you had a group that was even led by a Thunder Rosa and had a team, you could probably put four of those lucha women together. That'd be badass. There used to be a couple of, I can't remember who they were. I don't know if they were here for a bit. There was two female, like Mexican women that were a tag team and almost had like gang colors for a bit, like back. They were really good. I always thought I was always surprised that they didn't get more play. So I don't know if they just kind of were here for a bit and then they moved on. There was, TNA or one of the other, you know, leagues, but yeah, you know what? I think, I just think there's something, I really think that it's needed. There has to be some kind of spark for the women's division. I think they could do something. They just need to have smart, put the right ones. If you want to get the right people together and right storyline, I think our fans are primed and ready for something like that. So, well, I guess we'll see. Again, I have high hopes. I've always been high hopes for women tag titles. We've been talking about it, feels like forever, but you wonder when they're actually going to pull the plug. I keep on thinking. I always thought that it made sense to have the finals at Wembley. But again, we haven't heard anything towards that. But you never know. Hey, you never know. But I think it'd make a great storyline to lead up as the first champions at Wembley. But what do I know? But I guess I was going to talk about when it comes to the BCC. We've since Yuta's back, the group's been back together. And they've been using them more. So I think it's great. And what I was thinking about the other day too, when I was watching them, these guys are so past. Like, I need time. I need me time. These guys are just like, as your guys are getting older, that it's a great way to still be involved, still be in the big matches, still be with great teams, but the stress is a little bit less off you because you're not having to carry the match like a Daniel Bryan, for example. You're right. It gives him that longevity. It gets him still being able to wrestle, but he doesn't have to wrestle a 30-minute match, or he doesn't have to be busted open to totally. He can be mixed in and take a bit of a breather. So I think it's great in that way where, just say if Danielson can take it easy in these matches, Moxley can take a bit of take it easy in this, and then you kind of give the heavy lifting to a Wheeler now that he's back, and Claudio. I mean, Claudio is the workhorse.
Yeah.
He must have a ton of respect by the locker room, whatever locker room he's in, right? And because again, he seems to be able to do everything and willing to do anything. And I'll get your take on this, Adam. I mentioned, there's people were complaining online, of course, saying, Claudio's being wasted, and he did much better when he was in WWE. They're not using him, but it's a shame, wasted talent. So I'll let your opinion before, but again, I have a pretty strong opinion on this. But I was wondering what your opinion on this would be, and do you feel that he's being wasted, or you think that no, they're doing a great job with him, and he's got a bright future still.
So I'm going to compare this to someone he actually worked with in WWE that WWE has constantly used, and people complain that he's not being utilized, and that's Sheamus. And think about it that they were both in a tag team called The Bar in WWE. So Claudio over in AEW now, Sheamus still in WWE. Sheamus vies for the Intercontinental title, never wins it, but he's had a lot of great matches. As he likes to call it, banger after banger after banger after banger. And so, but Claudio has also had a lot of great matches in AEW, and he actually held the Ring of Honor World title. No one expected Claudio to win that title. Everybody thought he was going to come over here, be a workhorse, either, win a couple matches, lose a couple matches here, but then he gets thrown into the BCC, and what he's been doing in AEW, I think he's getting utilized a lot more in AEW than he would in WWE right now. And, at the time he was in WWE, again, it was a different group leading that, the creative, it was Vince, when he was over there doing the creative, but now you got Paul, and Paul is running it differently. But I mean, if he goes back, I mean, where does Paul put, Claudio? You're already throwing a lot of new signees like an Ethan Page and, Alexis King and all those guys and Sean Spears over into NXT, because you're trying to get eyes on that product. So you throw him in NXT, kind of almost a step down of what he's doing now on the roster with AEW, and so at one point he was tag team champions with Sheamus, and at one point he was a U.S. champion, at one point he was Andre the Giant Memorial winner, but he held that Ring of Honor World title for a while, and he's had a lot of great matches, and then you put him in a group like the BCC and he just thrives. I think that was a group that he should have been in, kind of like in WWE, but him and Sheamus kind of matched well just because of their styles. So I think it's almost an extension of what he was doing at the Bar with Sheamus is kind of carrying over to AEW. And I'll be totally honest, I really prefer him in AEW because he's actually having matches week in and week out. Yeah. Whereas WWE, after him and the Sheamus broke up and he went solo, barely saw him at all. He wasn't getting utilized at all. And so I think he's getting more going over in AEW than he did in WWE. But that never says that I never liked him in WWE. I loved his stuff in WWE as Cesaro. And so, and then after he won it, he became a Paul Heyman guy. I was like, okay, now I really like this guy because I'm a big Paul Heyman guy. Mm-hmm. And so, with Claudio, I think he's getting utilized very well. And again, I'd like to see him, depending on how far this BCC goes after, Danielson finishes up and retires from wrestling, where the group goes, and see if him and Wheeler maybe just go off as a tag team or him going off solo. I think either way, it's a win-win for Claudio.
Yeah, I loved the Bar, by the way, and I thought they were an underutilized team. I was actually kind of upset when they broke them up or didn't put it back together. I didn't care much for Sheamus on his own. I was kind of struggling to really like Cesaro, but when they put those guys together after they had a great feud, that they had him fight and fight and fight, and and then they finally said, you know what, let's be partners, right? We've kicked the crap out of each other so damn much. We know each other like the back of our hands now. So I always thought that was a great team. I think he's, I think more than ever, he is getting a chance now to shine, and his character's really coming through. So, Claudio, he's a guy that's, the man's man, the professional wrestler's professional wrestler. And he tells his story in the ring. That's where he does his storytelling, and it's becoming a little more animated. And if you kind of noticed the last couple weeks, especially since Yuta has been back, I think they do make a really good tag team and they complement each other. And these guys are just the younger workhorses. But his personality this past week, like he was walking, on the barricade, he's doing these animated movements and everything, playing to the crowd, and he's got that one in the swing. So he's got the fans that people are into it, right? So I definitely feel anytime he is getting a chance to showcase, he's wrestling every week. I think people also forget, and we talked about him last week, when people get upset, like, oh, they're not used, and oh, they don't have a belt. And I said, okay, well, you know what? They're also like a Kyle O'Reilly, for example. Okay, so yes, he's losing the matches, but he's wrestling every week on TV. It's the main event, and he's wrestling one of the top stars in the world. So from a wrestlers, and I'm like, yeah, I'll lose, but you're putting me in these positions, right, for showcasing. And that's why I think you can't ask for any more than that until you get to the point where you're like, okay, now you're killing my character off if you keep on me losing. I need to get some wins now. So I think they're doing this. I think it's a great showcase for Claudio. I think if anything, I could see if the way he is now, and with a Wheeler, if they keep on pushing them, I could really see them as AEW champions, and I think they actually could be believable, and they would have a following behind them. As long as they keep up, I think people are buying buy-in back into the BCC. We're a few weeks ago until Wheeler came back, and until the where Bryan Danielson was involved in that Anarchy in the Arena match, and he was team AEW. So once that was done, Wheeler came back. It seemed like it would be a perfect fit to have the team back together. Now they've been kind of showcasing them every week, which is great, which I think is going to help project them into the tag title, division, or at least the opportunity. I don't know. What do you think? How do you feel about? How would you feel about a BCC tag team champions?
If it's anyone, it's got to be Wheeler and Claudio. I think those two going forward after Danielson leaves, I think where Moxley kind of becomes like a surrogate leader, but almost like he's got his own stuff going on. Because again, he's doing off stuff to New Japan as well. So, I mean, he's not always going to constantly be there, but someone like a Wheeler and a Claudio will always be on AEW television regardless. So I think going forward, if you have to go two people from the BCC to kind of compete for the World Tag titles, it's got to be Claudio and Wheeler. And both their styles work very well with each other. And I think as a tag team, it'll work hand in hand with both, Claudio's strength and kind of like aggressiveness compared with Wheeler's technicality. And I think with that to work, I think Wheeler might have to drop the pure championship of Ring of Honor to someone over on that roster. Agreed. Then you could really focus on getting Claudio and Wheeler as a real threat tag team. And if they ever decide, I don't know what they're doing with the rankings anymore. It seems like they've thrown them away, even though they said they were coming back. I don't know anymore. But if they were to climb the ladders of the tag team division, they would definitely be in hand to kind of be a threat to the Young Bucks for the World Tag titles. So I can see that as a tag team right there.
So who do you think, and this can also be a question for anyone, who's watching, listening, and want to chime in, and who would, if, like you mentioned, when Bryan Danielson, when he does retire or decides to step away for the most part, and if we want to keep the BCC together, who could you see as a possible addition to the group that would make sense to keep within that kind of style that they have for the group. That you could go, okay, this is a good substitute. I can see it because again, you have to do it in a way that people are like, ugh, they're just replacing the good, like one of the main guys with another guy, and it's not working. But who could you see could step in and be like, okay, yeah, okay, this is a compliment to the group.
Well, real quick, I want to answer this real quick, and then my answer is actually going to follow up to this comment. Ramit asked if Becky Lynch would join AEW. Here's the thing: I don't think she is. I think she's got time away that she deserved. Spend time with her kid and be at home, rest up, heal up a little bit. She's going to sign a new deal eventually. They're just giving her vacation time. But, I mean, if it's possible, maybe an easier schedule for her. She's able to have more days off and all that stuff. But again, it's that whole being away from family. And now that her and Seth have a kid, don't think she's going to sign with AEW. She'll stay with WWE. But having said that, I think the next member, and we talk about it all the time, we'd love to see the first female member of the BCC. I think, John Moxley still keeps that lead, that head roll after Bryan Danielson retires. But you bring in someone like a Serena Deeb. We keep bringing her name up all the time. Her attitude, her aura, and the way she wrestles, perfect fit for the BCC. I mean, this is a woman that's aggressive, beats the hell out of people's legs and limbs. Remind you of anybody? John Moxley and Wheeler Yuta. She's got the greatest stuff of locking people in the hands and sitting on them doing that. Remind you of anybody? Claudio can do stuff like that. She's a great fit, and I would love to see the first female in the BCC be Serena Deeb. I mean, obviously, you could have that. Obviously, we don't know what's going on Anna Jay and what group she's in, or she's solo. Because, I mean, if she rejoins Dark Order, you got Dark Order and BCC. There's a group you haven't seen in a while is the Dark Order. Where have they been? So it'd be nice to have them come back and have Anna Jay come back and kind of have the three members of, Evil Uno,
Silver.
John Silver.
Is it? It's John Silver, right?
Yeah, and then whatever his other name, I keep forgetting.
It's been so long.
Reynolds, whatever. And then Anna Jay against the BCC of John Moxley, Claudio Wheeler, and Serena Deeb. I mean, right there, you could have the first ever intergender group blood and guts match. You could go possibilities with that. So I honestly would love to see like the first female member of the BCC.
Yeah, because if you do, because I know I mentioned we talked about Serena Deeb months ago, saying that'd be a great fit. Because I remember hearing that Claudio, because what kind of triggered me is someone asked Claudio last year if you could have picked what female do you think wrestler could fit in, and he said Serena Deeb. So again, maybe I think it makes sense. I think it'd be perfect. And again, you can have once Julia Hart comes back, then you're going to have her there, but you've got the House of Black, right? So then she's already associated. So then, like you said, you could really start adding those extra elements and layers to groups once you add an extra female in there, which I think would be really cool, and that'd be kind of fun to see. So you know what, I think there's going to be a lot of, I think we're going to see more Claudio. I don't think he's going anywhere. To people's point to thinking he's, disappearing. No, I think they're doing a great job with him. So we'll see what happens there. But there was one to finish off, to go back to a Collision, for the 1 year anniversary, and we had a really good main event match, which was obviously Will Ospreay versus Rey Fenix, for the international championship, which again, great match. We knew that too. Some of the best high flyers in the game. So great match, very cool. I thought it was really. There's some really. I mean, this match was really, as you can see, it was a build up for Will Ospreay versus Strickland at Forbidden Door. So I think they did a great job of at the end there. when they actually show some of the cockiness that of and the mean streak of Will Ospreay come out when he actually used Strickland's finisher, and he mouthed to him because Strickland was in the crowd, and he mouthed to him and said like, "This is my house," and he does the stomp off the top rope,
Yeah.
which was awesome, which was really cool. I think they've done a great job building up this little rivalry, right, and really building it up. And so I thought that was really cool to show that. And then Strickland obviously comes in the ring. I don't know if you noticed it, but I did like the where they didn't have a microphone. Like they were able to pick it up what they were saying, but they almost kind of did it as if they were just in the ring, but they were still telling a story, but they didn't actually have to have the mics and do the whole thing. But the mics, I guess, from the cameras or whatever was picking it up. And so you get that closeness, you get the storytelling, more of that one-on-one close face, which was good. I thought it was done really well. And I love when Ospreay grabs the title off of Swerve after Swerve says, "There, you don't have the ability, you can't handle, running this, be the face of the company. You can't have these both belts on your shoulders." Boom, whips it off, and then throws it over both belts on the shoulders. And I loved. I thought that was great. That was a great move. It turned out great. Swerve's face really playing into it, and then saying, if we weren't friends, I would have, I would not let that happen. I would have buried you for that. So very cool. How did you, again, just going back, your thoughts on, that title match as the main event for the year anniversary, and how they kind of played it into the storyline for war.
I love it because you also had Ray Phoenix in there. Again, we talk about how he surprisingly beat Jon Moxley after that mishap of Jon Moxley being dropped on his head and being concussed. So they're like, "Here, Ray, take the title," all this stuff. Like the kind of the spur of the moment kind of trick play call, the whatever you call it. But yeah, no, there's a story in there with him, and I think both styles was really good with him and Will kind of mashed really together, real good in the ring together, and just having Swerve there, like observing, like it kind of adds tension to the match that they're going to have at Forbidden Door. Obviously, I think we'll have a screwy finish at Forbidden Door, and no one's going to actually like be damaged as far as like both the title and their, both their whatever it is, their aura or whatever. I keep forgetting terms. I can't even think straight. But yeah, no, I think the match was really fun to watch. Again, Ospreay is always fun to watch in the ring. He's got a lot of energy. He takes a lot of risks. But that's someone that Swerve is like too. Swerve takes a lot of risks. He does a lot of crazy stuff in the ring. Does he have mishaps too? Sure. And so does, Ospreay. He has mishaps. But I think if you get them enough time to kind of work through their match at Forbidden Door, I think you're going to have a great match regardless. I mean, considering what we got from Will and Danielson, at Dynasty, I think you setting it up for someone like a Will Ospreay and a Swerve Strickland will be really awesome to see. Having said that, I think the next thing you need to do, though, is if you're going to have pull the trigger and not have a screwy finish and have Will Ospreay go over Swerve at Forbidden Door, have him be a double champion, first title he has to lose is the International. I think you need to put that on someone mid-card that needs that can elevate that title, hasn't had that title yet, and just have Will carry that AEW championship all the way to Wembley. I think that's their big thing, is they want to have Will kind of headline Wembley as world champion. And, as much as I loved Swerve Strickland's reign, I think it was a good reign. I think it may be coming to an end because they just see the potential in a Will Ospreay as far as selling out Wembley as the headliner. So I'm very excited to see this match. I think it's going to surprise a lot of people.
No, I agree. And what do you think of? Do you think a possibility is we're going to see Will Ospreay versus MJF for the title at Wembley?
I don't know if it'll be there. It might be at All Out.
But what else?
All Out might be one.
So what else could top? What do you think could be the main event for Wembley?
So if you're gonna go again, you could do it where at last year you had the women's world title in a four way. Could have the men's in a four way with Swerve asking for a rematch at Wembley, and then Adam Cole coming out, and then MJF. So you could have those four guys kind of battle it out as the big main event and have Will go over all three of them, retain, but have MJF come this close to winning it at Wembley to where he says, I want to go one-on-one with Ospreay at All Out. And then that can carry over to All Out. So the story is right there. So I think that would be a big main event is if you have all four of those guys in the main event.
Interesting. I kind of tend to think, I think it's going to be my prediction is going to be a one-on-one for the title. I think you'd see more of a four-way when it comes to either the TNT title or the international or one of the other belts. I could see a four-way. But I think they're going to hype it up to be a one-on-one and build it up so much that you kind of need the one-on-one to do it. So I feel it's going to be MJF and Ospreay for the title one-on-one. But again, that's just my prediction on that. So I was going to, I know I asked you before we started the podcast, and as we talk about Ospreay, and he's had some great matches since he's been back, and every match he's done has been stellar. But again, they're putting up some really good talent. Do you think the way, the style, and what AEW has kind of allowed him to do, with his storytelling and just, tell the story through wrestling as opposed to super choreographed, which I kind of feel a lot of what WWE does. Do you think he could have the same run right now or have the same excitement as he's been having and creating in AEW in WWE based on the way that they like to build their matches up and their roster of who could be, provide some of these matches over in WWE that he's, could be doing the same level in AEW.
And you said that was Will Ospreay?
Yes.
I mean, he's got a lot of potential matches in AEW. And again, he's got a lot of potential matches in WWE. Again, I think the going over to AEW was a smart move because, again, he might have gotten lost in the shuffle in WWE. I mean, unless how Papa H, as what many people call him, would have figured out where to integrate him at. But again, it's like the saying of, well, what if Claudio goes back, he goes back to NXT and doesn't go to the main roster because they have nothing for him there. The same thing with Ospreay. Oh, we'll start you out in NXT. Or is he like someone like a Jade Cargill where they just throw him on the main roster but keep him at the Performance Center for a while to get the WWE groove? Because WWE is completely different than AEW style of learning the wrestling over there. So, I mean, I think right now, match-wise, he's got a couple of more good matches left over in AEW. I mean, I can name a few people. MJF, he's still got a good match he can have against. He's got a match against Adam Cole he can do. Again, we've got him and Swerve coming up. You've got, I mean, hell, him and a Trent Beretta would be a great match. Yeah. Him and a John Moxley, him and a Claudio. I mean,
Switchblade.
And Switchblade. You got, yes.
So many guys.
Yeah, the list can go on, and he's got so many good matches left over there that I think if he does decide, okay, now is the time I'll step over to WWE, see how I do over there, he's going to have a lot of young blood over there because by the time he's done in AEW, maybe some of those guys over in WWE are taking time off or, are done, so, but I think there's some longevity to Will Ospreay in AEW.
Agreed. 100%. He looks comfortable here. He's jumped right in there. Like sometimes we wait for guys to go to WWE and you're excited, but then they don't look comfortable. They don't fit in. Like he fits in really well. He's well received by the fans. And he makes sense. And he's one of these guys that he puts it all on the line, like you said. So as long as he can stay healthy, it's going to be fucked. If he gets hurt, man, like so many plans are going to get screwed. But I will take an Osprey. I know it's not a comparable on the same level, but in terms of if I had to pay money and listen to and watch weekly, and if someone said you have Will Osprey or you got CM Punk, I mean, I'd be like, oh my God, Will Osprey all day long. You're right. You're right. Again, so again, just to say with that, but yeah, no, I think they're building up, and I'm excited. I'm excited to see if at Forbidden Door is he going to actually lose his first match, right? Are they going to put Swerve over? It's going to be interesting if Swerve can actually, stop him, and then that's his claim to fame that he was his first, that he was the only guy who beat Will Ospreay,
Yeah.
right?
First
So yeah, so that'll be interesting. We'll see how long it takes. They did. They're really pushing MJF and Roosh. With that. Um, but they had that brawl at the at the end that they almost. I was actually impressed at how much they're actually getting into this, right? And the whole brawl and really showing like they're really building this up. I was pretty impressed that they did this with these guys. What were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, you know what? When it first came out, a lot of people groaned. They're like, oh, why is it Roosh? A lot of people forget how good Roosh is. I think we've already talked about this. Very impressed with him from the Continental Classic matches that he had. I think he's a very underrated performer in AEW. And the fact that he's going to be the first opponent of MJF is great. I think it's going to be a great match. I think they're both going to have hard-hitting styles. I think Roosh plays the heel very well in this match. And MJF is going to be the aggressive face that's like, dude, I'm just going to beat your ass. He's going to be like the Stone Cold of the match, And so I honestly love the whole storytelling of these two. And, Roosh saying, like, since you, like, hey, you've been out and more people have been stepping up and all this stuff. So play that. But I think obviously we're going to probably get this one and done. I don't think it'll carry over to like 3 or 4 matches. You'll have one and done, maybe a Forbidden Door. But I do like the idea of having Roosh as MJF's first opponent.
Me too. And do you think, to say if this is one and done, the fact of what it's done, the fact of the stage that they're putting us on, the attention they're doing it, that it's going to be a great match because they're not going to have MJF come in half-ass, right? This is his opportunity. This is his back that he's going to do a stellar match. I think it's going to be a great match. I think going forward, it's going to project Roosh into a spotlight where you can actually see him in line for a TNT title match or an international match, and put him in those title type positions. Because now he becomes believable. Now you've seen him, and you're like, okay, I get it. He can run with the big boys, and he's entertaining, and he's a hard hitter, and yeah, he's a mean, he's got a mean streak in him, and I enjoy it. And he does have a following, and I think you're going to start seeing more and more people getting behind him. Right? He's just has that aura about him, that character. So I think this whole little run, whatever it happens to be, I think will then project Roosh right into. A weekly guy you're going to start seeing. You're going to see more mic time. You're going to see more development. I love him as a leader of the faction. I loved him when he was with the group, right? I know they're trying to maybe, letting him establish himself as a single, but, I do like him as a faction. I can see him running a faction. So I don't know. Do you see this as been super beneficial to Roosh, to have this? And maybe, even if he loses to MJF, I think it's a win-win scenario. I mean, it's putting him right. He's got. So what do you think?
It's like what you said earlier about these guys getting put in the spotlight matches, like Kyle O'Reilly getting in the spotlight matches with some of these big guys and getting that recognition. I see it with Roosh too, with MJF. I think getting in a match with MJF, they have a really good match. Let's say it's a 20, 25-minute match, a banger of a match. I think that's going to put Roosh on a map. Of this guy really showed us what he can do against MJF, and I think we should push him to have a title. And I know we talk about, the CMLL guys coming over, but you really don't have much of a homegrown Latino kind of like feel to AEW. You've got the Lucha Bros, but outside of that, you just got Roosh, and At this point, I can't think of anyone else right now other than Mercedes, or not Mercedes, Thunder Rosa.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't really have that Latino connection in AEW other than bringing CMLL guys or
Yeah.
girls in, and that's about it.
Yeah.
But once Forbidden Door's over, are they going to continue bringing those people in? If not, you've got to start pushing for those Latino wrestlers that are going to bring in that crowd and get people behind them. And like I said, and we've discussed about putting certain people in certain roles of, if they do well and they perform well and show what they can do, they get pushed well.
Mm-hmm.
And someone like a Roosh, who I honestly thought could have gone farther in the Continental Tournament, I think this match could push him to either a TNT title or the Continental title or the International title. Somewhere along those lines, I think this match, like I said, if it can go a 20, 25-minute banger, I think Roosh, even if he loses to MJF, I think it's not going to hurt him one bit, and it might even impress people backstage.
100%. I agree. I think it's going to be a great match, actually. I think it's going to be one that people won't expect to be in so much, or people just expect to be because it's MJF. But I think people are going to, like you said, are really going to take to Roosh, and I think we're going to hear it. Like, look at us. We're talking about Roosh. I know there's a lot of people talking about him and excited to give the guy a chance, and he's going to run with it, right? And show like, no, I've done this before. I'm not a newbie here, right? So I definitely feel like given the opportunity. Now, I just wanted to change gears a little bit as we just come up to the hour here, just before we finish off. I thought it was worth bringing up. This past week, I guess it was with TNA's their pay-per-view they had this weekend.
Against all odds. Yeah.
Against all odds. They had, and I think there was a lot of speculation that, I guess with Jeff Hardy's contract with AEW coming up, that they were wondering, hey, could we see a reunited Hardy Boys at the pay-per-view? And of course, it came true, and it was in the main event, and actually it was a great match. And you had, I guess, Matt Hardy's wife was involved in there and had a bit of a Lita look to her, actually, with the pants and everything. So that was cool. With having Matt, having the
Namath brothers.
The Namath brothers. So yes, and I love how they're together. I love that. I think that's so fitting that they're together. That give him a chance, get him out of AEW, put him with his brother, and do something. And then we had that the introduction, I guess, of the reintroduction of the Hardys back in TNA. And I love the fact that they can still use the music, that they actually own that, which is great, because that's their theme. And again, I think there's some special stuff that's going on with TNA. And if you look back, and we were talking about it, there seems to be a feeling, and again, I experienced it, maybe because I'm a little biased because I went and saw one of their shows here in a small arena and loved it. And TNA seems to be such a good show for a small crowd. And if you watch, the fans love to be almost on top of it, in part of it, and close to it. Nobody cares that it's small because everyone's into it. So I think for their storytelling and the excitement, that's kind of like their niche, even more than NXT. NXT is made for production, right? And it's more of like a studio type. It's made for TV, where TNA is made for the arena show, first and foremost, I feel, anyways, because they're not pushing the envelope in terms of let's get bigger. They want to keep that feel and run with it, and it's building up. And there's obviously they're attracting, because look at some of these wrestlers they're bringing in, right? So there's some really good wrestlers, and they've got a lot of good guys that they've had that could make a big impact if they left TNA and went somewhere else. They've got some really good guys in there. I know. Even with the parting of Scott D'Amore, that the fact that they're still being able to keep this kind of excitement that's happening there. But I don't know. How do you feel? I know we kind of touch on TNA every once in a while, and with this kind of with the Hardy Boys back in, do you think this is a better spot for them?
I think so. I think with their time there before, I think it really worked for them. I love the fact that they're kind of only, the chair he brought I think had the Brother Nero design on it. I love that they're kind of reintroducing that. I think that was some of Jeff Hardy's best work. It was his second run with TNA. I think this would be a perfect place for him. And I agree with you. I do like the feel of TNA. Again, if people don't remember, I mean, when they started TNA NWA as that they did it in Universal Studios in the studios. That's how they did all their shows. So they had rotating crowds, and so kind of like what Eric Bischoff did with WCW when they started off, like a studio where they rotated the crowd. And so I think it's great that TNA is starting to get some recognition, not just with wrestlers going back over there and wrestlers doing their things over there, but also the little work they're getting with NXT. Even tonight, I mean, they had the Battle Royal to kick off NXT tonight, and someone that I've talked about, Joe Hendry, showed up, and he's great. If anybody has not seen what Joe Hendry does, he's entertaining as all hell. And he, with TNA, I do like what they're doing right now. They've got a good thing going. They've got some good storylines going, even with Scott gone. They got stuff going right now. They've got some great matches. Their X division is great. It always has been great. But seeing the Hardys over in TNA again, I think this would be a perfect way to end their careers is over in TNA, because I think that's where they had their best times were in TNA. I mean, that's where we got Broken Matt Hardy, Brother Nero. You know, we had some really great stuff, you know, over in TNA from the Hardy Boys. So if this were the end of the Hardy Boys run in professional wrestling, I'm okay with it being in TNA. And like I said, because I felt like they were underused in AEW and never got a chance to shine.
Yeah, you know, they go over. And look, and Matt was in a main event match at a pay-per-view, right? And believable, like, and people were into it, right? And it's almost like it's amazing how you see some wrestlers that they just fit certain organizations. And the fans either just love him, like, you know, again, he comes back, the fans are into it, and they put him right into that main event status right away, right? Where again, he was floundering. He was floundering in WWE. He was floundering in AEW with directions, and then between, you know, Jeff in and out, and they, you know, trying to start something, not quite there, doing multiple characters, and then going back to like, hey, you know what? Let's go back where it works, where these characters really took off. So, no, it was nice to see. I just wanted to kind of bring that up with that feel, and it was nice to see them kind of get that extra excitement, and they look comfortable. They looked like they were having fun, right? So, and that's what matters when you see some of these guys, and if they're like, hey, if this is gonna be our swan song, let's friggin' go out with a bang and do some great matches with some great talent. So, but you know, that's it. You know, for I'm going to wrap up the show for this week, but I just wanted to again, you know, I'm assuming you're doing your show on Thursday.
Yes, I am. And let me see. I actually had because I was asked what my topic was going to be for this week, and I totally forgot what it was going to be. Yeah, I totally forgot what I was going to do. International professional wrestling. Just not just like the States, but international was going to be the topic of choice for Thursday. So very excited to talk about that. So everybody brush up your history of international wrestling and even today.
Awesome. No, it sounds like a good show. And that's Thursday nights, you know, part of the All Elite Zone, you know, here on YouTube. But you know what, again, Adam, thanks very much. It was always a pleasure, always a ton of fun. And we can keep on talking for hours and hours and hours about the world of professional wrestling. And thanks, everyone, who tuned in for another week, and we always appreciate your support and your comments. You know, please tell your family and friends, like and subscribe. Always appreciated. Thanks very much. And that'll do it for this week, and we'll see you again next week. As we get even closer to Forbidden Door, we'll start having, you know, sort of looking down the card as it starts to come together. So I'm sure we'll have some comments about that. But till we meet again next week, have a great week, guys. Talk to you soon.